Hi, I'm Shannon Skipper with Square. Today, let's take a look at how to store a card on file with the Square API so we can charge it again in the future. To save a card on file, we'll first need a card nonce, which is a secure payment token generated from a front-end source, like the in-app payments SDK for a mobile app or the SQ payment form for a web app. Let's look at how to take that card nonce and store it on file with the customer so we can remember that card for use in future payments. So let's get started. First, we need a customer to save the card to. But before we create a customer, we need our Sandbox access token. The Sandbox token for your app can be found in your Square developer dashboard. If you haven't signed up for a Square developer account, go to developer.squareup.com/apps and do that now. I've already created an app here. Now, just toggle to Sandbox mode and copy your Sandbox access token like so. Now that we have a token, we're ready to do a bit of backend code. The way this works is you get a card nonce from your mobile or web app, send a post request from that front end to your backend, and get back a card on file stored with Square's API. We're focusing here on that last step where the backend stores the card nonce with Square API. I'll use the Ruby SDK here, but it's similar in other SDK languages. So now that we have our access token, let's create a customer in our Sandbox account. First, let's require the Square Ruby SDK with require Square. And let's also require a secure random, which we'll be using to get the unique ID. Next, we'll instantiate our Square client. It's here that we'll need that Sandbox access token. Use your Sandbox access token in place of where it says Square token. And let's also make sure to set the environment to Sandbox as well. And then let's go ahead and create a customer in our Sandbox. I'll just use my last name here without any other customer details. And fetch the customer ID from the response. Now that we have a customer selected, we're ready to save a card. Instead of building a web or mobile front end to get a nonce, we'll use the Sandbox test value for a nonce. The basic Sandbox test value for a standard working card is cnon card nonce OK. So let's use that value here. Note, when you use a Sandbox card nonce value with the create customer card endpoint, you'll need to also use 94103 as the billing address field, or the request will fail with an invalid postal code error. This is just a Sandbox convention for testing purposes. And we'll go ahead and save the card on file. To create the customer card, we just need the customer's ID and the card nonce. Let's take a look at the card we just created by printing the data from the response. Now, let's save the file and run this code from the terminal with Ruby and the file name. As we can see from the output, a card was successfully saved on file. Next, let's look at how to create a charge using that card in the future. So we'll reopen our code. And let's just use this same client. First, we'll find the card ID for the card that we saved for this customer, and we'll fetch the customer using their card ID. And now that we have our customer, we can grab the card ID. We'll just use the first card here, since we've only created one, but we could have more than one card on file per customer if we'd like. Now that we have the card ID, let's charge the card. Here we want to charge the card right away, so we'll set autocomplete true. We also need an item potency key to make sure this charge only goes through once, even if this request is sent multiple times. So let's use a UUID for that. For the amount, we'll use 100 to charge $1, since these are cents. Finally, let's add the source and customer IDs. Now that we have the body, let's make the charge with client.payments.createPayment. And we can pretty print the response to see in the terminal. And we'll run the code again with Ruby cardonfile.rb and success! Let's take a look at the response. As you can see, it's a 200 response, and we have some confirmation details showing that the card was captured and payment completed. Okay, so we saved a card on file with the customer, and then we went back and charged that card, which we can do again in the future. So that's how you store a card on file with Square, using a card nonce. Whether your nonce is from a web form or a mobile app, you can store it as a card ID and charge it in the future. And remember, always ask customers for permission before saving their card information. Take a look at payment form or in-app payment stocks linked below for how to generate a nonce with a web or mobile app. Let us know if you have any questions. We can't wait to see what you'll build.